I'm from a really small town in South Dakota. It's a town of like 700 people. And whenever I go back and people find out that I live in Los Angeles, they always have the same question for me. They always ask me, "Hey Dave, how do you live with all that traffic out there in Los Angeles?" They say, "David, now I hear the traffic out there is pretty wild. How do you live with it?" They'll say, "David, now I'm going to ask you a question here, and I don't want you to josh me, okay? Please don't josh me. I've had so much joshing lately. My wife joshed me when she said our vows. My best friend joshed me when he told me he wasn't going to smooch my wife. I can't handle any more joshing, and I think if anybody else joshes me, I'm going to have to box their ears red. So don't josh me here. I got a question for you. How do you live with all that traffic? And my answer is always the same for all of them, which is, how do you live without it? How do you live without it? Because I lived in that town for like 20 years, driving around this town of 700 people, and I couldn't give anybody the bird. I couldn't tell anybody to burn in hell because I knew everybody. You can't tell Mrs. DeWard to burn in hell because then she's going to tell Mr. DeWard, and then Mr. DeWard's going to tell my dad, Keith. And then I'm going to have to work on the DeWard farm for 2 weeks as penance for my sin. So I couldn't get any anger out on the street. So what I used to do when I got really angry, instead of driving around, I would take an aluminum baseball bat, drive out to the country, and beat a tree for a half an hour. That's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for Earth. That's actually how I think global warming started. People in rural communities who can't get their anger out on the streets going out to the country with a baseball bat. I think that's why we're in the problem we're in. Nobody talks about it, not even Bernie. He's not bringing it up. But out here, I'm getting it all out, baby. I'm telling people to burn in hell. I'm giving people the bird. Plus, I'm learning lots of new things. Like, if you'd have told me at 13 an Armenian in a Tesla was going to give me the finger, I would have said, "Who da what that now?" Got a lot of memories, some good, some bad. One of my favorite memories I have, and you guys might remember this if you're roughly 34 years old, was this time when everybody in the country was saying "getting willy with it" to each other. Like, I'd see my friend Big Tone, and I'd be like, "Ooh, Big Tone, what's up, man?" He'd be like, "Oh, not too much, just getting willy with it." Or I'd be like at the Blue Moon, which is the only restaurant I could eat at in my town, because it's the only restaurant in town. And Tracy, who is the owner of it, would be putting a cheeseburger down in front of me. I'd be like, "Ooh, Tracy, I'm about ready to get willy with this beef, baby." And I remember when the phrase "getting willy with it" died. I was in math class. And my teacher, Mr. Hornster, walked into math class. He put his briefcase down. He turned and looked at the class and he said, "Okay, class, who's ready to get willy with integers?" And me and Big Tone were like, "Oh my God, we can't say that anymore. If Mr. H is saying it, we can't say that anymore." So I quit saying it. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, why did I let Mr. Hornster ruin that for me? I love saying it. It was one of my favorite things to say. I should have never stopped saying it. So I decided I was going to start saying again. And I went up to the Griffith Observatory. I love it up there. And there was this tourist family up there. You know these tourist families that all wear matching shirts? There's one of those families. And they were wearing the shirt that said, "The Fleming family came here to see the sights, and by God, that's what we're doing." So I said, "Ooh, looks like the Fleming family's getting willy with it." And they looked at me like I told them that I was writing a novel, not only what if would have happened if the South won the Civil War, but what if the South teamed up with the Nazis in WW2? And they looked at me like there was a scene in that book where a Southern general meets up with Hitler and he says, I say, here, Hitler. You gotta try here some of this sweet tea." And Hitler looks at it kind of quizzically because he's a paranoid crazy man. And he looks at it, but he just decides to take a drink of the sweet tea, and he goes, "Ich kann Willy bekommen," which roughly translates from German to English into "I could get willy with this." They looked at me like I was writing that book. So it kind of shook my faith that saying getting willy with it was ever something people said to each other. So I did what I always do when I'm unsure of my memories. I called up my friend Big Tone, and I was like, hey, Big Tone, you remember when we used to say getting willy with it to each other? And he said, do you mean getting jiggy with it? And I was like, yes, I do. I do mean getting jiggy with it. Oh, man. I was getting jiggy with it the whole time. And he goes, yeah, man. How's stuff in LA? How things going for you? And I was like, oh, pretty good. And he goes, yeah, how's that book you're writing going? And I was like, oh, fine. Got to change a lot of Hitler's dialogue. I live an exciting life. I fly sometimes, and I was on this one flight, and it was like everything you want on a flight. Smooth skies, like you pray for before you take off. Just very normal flight. And in the middle of the flight, I heard the PA come on, and the pilot said, ladies and gentlemen, we have an emergency on this flight. And I was like, oh my God, this can't be happening to me. I'm still a young boy. There's still a lot of pulled pork sandwiches I haven't eaten out there yet. You know, I can't be going down. And then he said, there's just a very sick woman on this flight, and we have to get her some help. So if there's any doctors or nurses, if anybody could help her out, that'd be great. And I was like, oh, thank God, just a sick woman, you know. I'm still going to get my pee-pee on later. And the flight went on a little longer, and we had to land in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and to get this lady some emergency help. And they took her off the flight, and some other people, but everybody else just had to stay on the plane. And we were on the plane for just hours and hours, you know, just nobody was knowing what was going on. And after a few hours of not hearing anything, we just heard the PA system click on, and the pilot said, we lost her. They tried everything they could, but it didn't work. We lost her. And we know that you guys have been here for a long time. If you haven't put it together already, all of you will be missing your connecting flights in Sky Harbor. And just to kind of make up for the inconvenience, Delta Airlines will be issuing $30 meal vouchers to eat wherever you want to in the airport. And there aren't a lot of hell yeahs I want back. All right, thank you guys.
David Venhuizen, everybody. Keep it going for him.